What is up, W Sports Podcast? Jimothy and Tubby, we are back again, and you guessed it. It is episode 1 of our MLB preview series that we're going to do as we lead into the opening weekend, which, believe it or not, is like 3 weeks away. I know you all are excited. I'm excited. We're stoked about it. But Tubby, Jimothy here. We're gonna break down the AL and the NL East. I know these are so many of y'all's favorite divisions. Your favorite teams are out there because we got the East Coast, and the East Coast loves baseball. So, Tubby, welcome back to the show.
What's up? I'm ready to talk some baseball. It's time for baseball season.
Right, it is time. Yeah, we did have almost what they called a blizzard out here in the Midwest last week, but I will say I could see the pavement the whole time when I was driving for 2 hours in it, and I could see grass on the median, so I felt like it was just blowing snow. It wasn't a blizzard. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I mean, we got quite a bit of snow here, and you cannot see most of the stuff. So maybe we got a little bit heavier stuff than you did, but yeah, maybe. You go from 10 inches of snow to 70 degrees the next week.
Yeah. So it must be springtime. I literally pulled into Oklahoma on Monday night for work, and then it said tornado warnings. Just so you guys know, there are some in the area, and I'm like, why are we living here? Like, what is the deal here on this? But hey, I get a lot of people love it. I just tornado warnings March 3rd is ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I mean, you had all the seasons. You had cold. 70s, tornadoes, we had rain. I mean, what more can you ask for from Oklahoma?
That's true. You really can't ask for much else. So today, as we break down the divisions, what we're going to do is something different than we've done previous years, because you know what? Why not change it up a little bit? So what we're going to do is break down each team. We're going to start from the worst record in the division last year and then work our way up to the division winners. And we're going to start with a word that describes each team. In a pinch, sure, it might be 2 words. So guess what? We're going to give a little bit of freedom here, but the idea is 1 word, and then we're going to talk about why that word exists. And we'll have both of our give and take here. So Tubby, I'm going to let you go first because I'm excited about your word specifically for the AL East, if you're up for it, for the Toronto Blue Jays.
I'm going to go with underperform.
Okay.
We've seen it the last 2 or 3 years where we thought this team a couple of years ago was a team that we could see compete each and every year with the team, with these young players that they had, with the rotation that they had built, and they have underperformed the last 2 seasons. And the question is going to be this year, did they underperform and have to sell Vladdy and Bichette with the fear of both of them walking at the end of this season?
Yeah. I'm gonna tag on that. Different word, almost the same thing, but it's desperate. I think this is a team that is absolutely desperate for a lot of things. Re-signing Vladdy before it's too late, and they had to trade him for pennies on the dollar. Desperate for, you mentioned Bo Bichette, to have a bounce back and a healthy year. There are so many little things that they are desperate for, and Toronto does not deserve to have to sell out and do nothing with these players. It is terrible. Last year, only 74 games, and you think about what this team looked like a couple years ago and where they're at now, they're desperate to have something good happen.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah. So, all right, let's move on. We're going to go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, I mean, they have tried to add a few pieces. They brought in Hoffman after the loss of Romano, brought in Santander, and then they traded for Loper Depot, last season. So maybe they're trying to make some moves. It's just going to depend on, can they finally get over that hump?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So apologies for any weird network issues. We're having a little bit back and forth, a little bit of delay. Hopefully it works itself out here pretty soon. But we're going to move on to the Tampa Bay Rays. Last year, this team went 80-82. This year, their home field is going to be actually in the minor league ballpark that the Yankees use throughout the season in Florida. Their schedule is going to be a little bit wonky, as most of their home games are early in the season, and then in the summer it goes mostly road games. So I think this team is uninspired. I think this is going to be what you consider a gap year, that there's not a whole lot of studs on this team that you're looking at. There's a lot of potential, and that's what the Rays thrive on, is the potential that, hey, if these pieces click, it will work. I just think that amongst not having a legit home for a minute is pretty tough. And you wish that it was different, because they have a new ballpark on the horizon that should really help, hopefully breathe some life into this franchise. But right now it's just uninspired.
Yeah, I'm going to go with potential. And that's because you look at some of these guys that they're getting back this year. You get Shane McClanahan back, who was one of the best pitchers in baseball a couple years ago. You get Drew Rasmussen back, who was really good a couple years ago. Also, both of them go down with Tommy John injuries. Over and didn't pitch at all last year. And then you look at
Hmm.
Junior Caminero. I mean, what probably the front runner in the AL for Rookie of the Year. Can Chris Morel? He has the potential. Can he cut down on the swing and misses? That's going to be the biggest question for him. You got
Yeah.
Brandon Lau still there, and you got Yandy Diaz, who had an incredible breakout season. So if those two young guys can help with the offense, I think the pitching is going to be there. Shane Baz looked really good last year. They're putting him back into the rotation where he, originally was going to be before the myriad of injuries that he had. I think this team has some potential, even with all the distractions with the stadium and home games and stuff like that, because of some of the guys that have come back from injury and some of these younger guys that they have.
Mhm. And this is a team that will do the openers, obviously, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the piggyback as you would starters were, it's 3 innings here, 2 innings or 3 innings here. They also are a team that legit has a 6-man rotation. So
Mm-hmm.
they're hoping to offset some of the volatility with some of just spreading the wealth. I will say I'm just not a huge fan. Like they're going to set themselves into some tough situations to win, but that's why they use metrics. It's just
Mm-hmm.
hard as a fan. It's got to be
Yeah.
hard as a fan to really bind us. I mean, can you name me three legitimate stars or studs that you've been like, I know the Rays are playing and I don't really care, but at least I get to see this guy. Can you name me three of those over the last 15 years?
I mean, you had that played for the Rays or played for the
Yeah.
Rays.
Yeah.
You had David Price, who is someone you probably would want to watch pitch all the time. Evan Longoria,
Right.
and that's about it.
Yeah, and I would have argued after the deep playoff run, you could have said
Mm-hmm.
Randy Rose ran it, but then he was a disappointment. Pretty not a
Yeah.
disappointment, but he went back to the mean, right? Uh,
Yeah.
that's the thing is like I'm telling myself this year as I'm going to baseball games, I'm not necessarily going with the passion to win or lose. That I'm saying that as
Mm-hmm.
a Cardinals fan, I'm not expected to win, but I'm saying I want to just go to love baseball. And part of
Yeah.
loving baseball is you can look out there and you can say that guy that I love watching that
Mm-hmm.
guy play. Even if the team is terrible, I'm going to enjoy every at bat or every pitch and just see what he does and how the game develops. And I don't know that I see that from a fan in Tampa Bay. And I'm not a Tampa Bay fan. I haven't been to Tampa Bay. Maybe I'm off base here.
I mean, maybe in a year or so,
Yeah.
but maybe not this year. I mean, because I think Junior Caminero has all the potential in the world to be an
Yeah.
amazing, MLB player, but he's still young, and it's going to
Yeah.
take him a year or so for him to get to that area where everyone wants to go. Yeah, this kid is for real, and he's going to be a star in the MLB.
Yeah. Well, I hear you there. All right, let's move on to Boston Red Sox, who were 1 game better last year than Tampa Bay at 81 and 81. They go out and they retool quite a bit. Tell me what's the
Mm-hmm.
word?
Watch out. This is a team that I think is a legitimate AL East contender and potentially, if everything falls right, the offense continues to produce like it did last year. This is a team that I think could really push for a World Series appearance. I've talked about Boston a lot this offseason because I love a lot of what they did. The one question I'm going to have for them is, can the older guys in the not in the rotation, but in the bullpen, have they thrown the best that they'll ever throw? Can they ever get somewhat close? Because we've seen how volatile Aroldis Chapman was last year. Liam Hendricks, he's been in and out with injuries and sicknesses, and then you throw in Justin Wilson. You've got three guys that are 35 plus years old. That can they do they still have enough in the tank to shore up that bullpen?
Yeah, I definitely I like that take. It's crazy. Aroldis Chapman's first year in the season, in first year, was like 2010, and Liam Hendricks was 2007. Aroldis Chapman's older. That baseball ages sometimes just are so wild.
Yeah.
The word I used to describe them was rising. I don't know that I would say that they're a legit contender yet. I think the AL is a little bit more open,
Mhm.
but I do like some of the pieces. I I think health is going to be a big piece, and how is it going to be a distraction with the young guys with the original studs that are in that lineup? Because there's already been some tension
Mhm.
early in the training. I think it's kind of died out a little bit, which is good. But I
Mhm.
love the starting rotation. You talked about in the offseason, one of the best signings was Walker Bueller going there. They have
Mhm.
him, obviously, great at crochet. I like this rotation, how it
Mhm.
stacks up, especially in the long haul of the season. So I see them as a rising team. Kind of like what you said. You said "watch out," which is a good one too. That was a little
Yeah.
more catchphrase than me, but yeah. So apparently the Boston Red Sox, and then we got the Baltimore Orioles. We're gonna go there. For me, I put expectant. We are expectant of a lot from this team. Are they taking the next step that they should? Because last year it felt like they maybe last year was not the step forward because maybe the year
Mhm.
before they stepped way forward, right? And then we almost
Yeah.
blew our expectations out the door. But you look at this homegrown talent. They obviously have Tyler O'Neill, who they signed this year, and then Ryan O'Hearn they traded the Royals for, I think last year,
Yeah.
early last year in the off, something like that. But this is such a homegrown team on that
Mhm.
side of it. I think I'm expecting for them to make a deep playoff run. However, I don't know if this rotation is good enough to make a legit ALCS contender.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with plateau. I think
Oh,
this team
oh,
is
that
just
no one ever wants to hear that.
no. It has nothing to do with the young offensive talent that they have. You got Gunner, you got Adley, you got the potential of Jackson, Holiday. You got Westberg at second. You've got so many young, good offensive players, but you have not addressed the biggest problem, and it's been the rotation. You let
Mhm.
Corbin Burns walk, didn't even try to retain him, which I get. You're not a team. You're not an organization that's going to spend a lot of money, but you had to have try to do something more this offseason. When you have a rotation like Zach Eflin, which I'm not. I think Eflin's a solid pitcher. I don't think he's a number one. I think he's a low end number two, but more of a number three. Can Grayson
Mhm.
Rodriguez ever put it fully together? Charlie Morton, you sign him 37, 38, 9, 40,
He's
however
he's
old.
41.
Okay, yes, yeah, I was still going up and I wasn't even there. And then you sign a guy like Tomoyuki Sagano from Japan, who's 35 years
30.
old himself.
Yeah.
So you did nothing really to address the rotation, and that was the problem last year. When outside of Corbin Burns, you had no consistency because Grayson Rodriguez was hurt, was inconsistent, and then the other guys. I mean, you traded for Eflin, but Eflin came over and didn't pitch great for you. And then you traded for Trevor Rogers. It just you haven't done anything to address the rotation to help those young offensive players reach the potential, and you're on the pace to do what we saw with the Blue Jays. We've talked about it, and that's just plateau, and eventually that plateau is going to drop off.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. This is a team that need the ace, doesn't have the ace, and especially
Yeah.
come playoff time, you need that 1-2 punch. All right,
Yep.
let's move on to last year's AL champion, and we played in the World Series, and unfortunately, America's heart was disappointed when they lost to the Death Star, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees, winners 94 games. What's the word, Tubby?
Contender. I don't think there's any other word for me because I don't see a whole lot of holes within this team. There are still some that you kind of look at and you go, okay, what's going to happen? Because with the recent news of Luis Hill getting hurt and being out for 3 to 4 months to start the season, you look at the rotation outside of Garrett Cole and Max Fried, and you're like, can Rondon finally live up to the contract that he signed? Can he stay on the mound and be a really good, consistent pitcher? Can Stroman, can Clark Schmidt? You've got some questions there within that when it comes to with Lewis Hill out. I mean, when Hill's back, you've got a great 1, 2, 3 punch. But the questions are, if he comes back, can he be what he was last year?
Yeah, here's what I want to know is I don't know. I know he doesn't strike out a lot of batters, but give me a
Mhm.
number 5 starter that is better than Stroman,
I mean,
not
the
named a
Dodgers
Dodger.
probably have. Oh, okay, never mind.
Not named a Dodger.
Jesus Luzardo for the Phillies.
Okay. Okay.
That's one.
Now I
That's it.
think, but I think that might be a thing. Yeah, but it's so hard to find him.
Yeah.
So I get that. Like there were questions of asking him to even move to the bullpen too because of where they're
Hmm.
at. I love what you're saying. I wrote what was it? Better. I think that they're actually better than they were last year. And you're like, how in the world?
Hmm.
They with no obviously no Juan Soto, who we'll get to in a minute,
Hmm.
and already having two injuries. You mentioned him, but also Giancarlo Stanton with his injuries, and he's obviously running on fumes
Yeah.
at this point in his career, which is unfortunate. But we're going to get to see Ben Rice, I think,
Yeah.
earlier in the season. Which, come on, it frees up that DH spot. Bring in this behemoth of a person. Let us go. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And I
mean,
still like
that.
Aaron Judge, Cody
Yeah.
Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt. I still like the. I think Paul Goldschmidt or Anthony Rizzo. Tell me who you want. Give me Paul Goldschmidt.
Oh yeah, 100%. They
Yeah.
definitely got better. I mean, when you add Freed, Goldie, Belly, Devin Williams, you've done good this offseason. Though
Hmm.
when it comes to the outfield, they have a really good outfield. The one question is going to be how well does Jason Dominguez transition defensive wise? I
Yeah.
don't know if you've watched spring training. He has struggled mightily in left field. He's a everyday center fielder. He's always been a center fielder. So I've heard that there's been talks that maybe Belly will transition actually over to left field and they'll put Dominguez back in center where he feels more comfortable. But yeah, this team has definitely gotten better.
Yeah, and I apologize. I mixed up Spencer Jones and Ben in Rice. So
Oh,
that's my
okay.
bad. Two very generic names, and that's who I want to see. And he will have to make the jump, I think, to AAA this
Yeah.
year. In the spring, he's been okay. He's just striking out a lot,
Hmm.
but he always strikes out a lot. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, who you got winning this division? Give me your projected ending in the standings here. Order, not necessarily games.
In order how they're going to finish. So I'm going to go with the wild card. I think Boston wins this division, and I know a lot of people are going to shake their head and be like, am I making the same mistake I made a couple years ago whenever I picked Boston?
Ah, that was
Maybe,
so good.
but I love this Boston team a whole lot more. I think that I've talked about them, and I feel like as much as I've talked about them this offseason, if I did not pick them, people will be like, well, why'd you talk so much about them? So I'm going to go Boston. I'm going to go New York. I'm going to go with the Rays. Then I'm going to go Baltimore. Then I'm going to go
Baltimore.
Toronto again.
Oh
I
man, that's
just,
tough.
I,
Yeah, I
I
hear you.
just can't with the rotation.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with New York. Until proven otherwise, given the Yankees. Then I got Boston. Then I have Baltimore. Then Tampa Bay, and then I would go with obviously Toronto. Which yeah, and that's just so sad. This is a good division, I
Mm-hmm.
think, overall with
Yeah.
talent. It's just
Mm-hmm.
can they make it work? It's just too
Yep.
bad. So. All right, let's move on. We got the NL East, and you've had a lot of the NL representation in the World Series over the last couple of years, up until last year. Obviously the Dodgers, but with the Braves, the Phillies. Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. We're going to start obviously with Miami Marlins. The word I chose for this team was nope. Not a whole lot to love about this team. I'm sorry. You look across the board, and this team literally looked at the schedule this year, looked at the roster, and said, "Nah, man, I'm good." Like it just you got to hope Sandy does well. You got to hope that, but they've gotten rid of so many pieces. There's just not a lot here
Mm-hmm.
that you even care about.
Yeah.
So nope.
I'm going to take a little note from their abbreviation, MIA, missing in
Ooh,
action.
that's good.
Where is it? I mean, especially the offense. I mean, where's the offense output coming from? You look at that batting order, and you're like, the only person I could potentially see giving you any somewhat offensive output, and it's still a question, and it's Connor Norby. And he's only played a half a major league season after he got
Yeah.
traded. I like Xavier Edwards. He can get on base and he can steal bases, but he ain't going to give you the power numbers. So where are those
Hmm.
numbers going to come from? I think Sandy bounces back. I think that he'll probably end up getting traded at some point this year. But yeah, just MIA. Where is this
Yeah.
organization at right now?
Yeah, it's not good. I think they lost 100 games last year. I could see them doing that again this year and with no problem.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah,
hard to lose 100 games, just for the record. All right,
Yes,
let's move to the Nationals. Tubby, what's the word?
potential. I'm going to use this one again, like I used with the Rays. I don't think the potential is this year. I talked about it last year. I think they're a couple years away if these young guys can start producing. They're going to have to see some improvement from some of these young guys like James Wood, Abram, Cruz, Gore, Ruiz. I think that there's a chance that, maybe next year we're talking about them being a legitimate team in the AL East next year if these young guys can, start living up to their potential. I think Mackenzie Gore is going to shock a lot of people this year, and he's going to show why he was one of the big pieces in the Soto trade, and he's finally going to be somewhat close to that, front of the rotation guy that a lot of people expected him to.
Yeah, I this team, I was surprised they didn't. I don't know what their offseason cap was, but to go get guys like a Kyle Gibson or something like that to
Mm-hmm.
really stir up the rotation and just give these young
Yeah.
guys like Gore and Irvin just more time to just settle in and really get into a
Mm-hmm.
good rhythm of what baseball looks like and not feel like they're stretched on innings. I
Yeah.
put young or fun, one of the
Mm-hmm.
two. You pick it because even if you just show up and you want to see the top four and the top three in this lineup, C.J. Abrams, Dylan Cruz, James Wood, that's fun.
Yeah.
Right, that is a
Mm-hmm.
young team, and it's gonna be an enjoyable experience just to go there and watch it. Um, yeah, that's just what I got.
Yeah.
So,
No, I agree.
all right, let's move. Yeah, let's move on to the Mets. Tubby, I'm gonna give you one guess. What word do you think I have for this team?
Met. Oh.
Mets equal Mets. What are we talking about? So I legit, but the Mets are gonna Met this year. I think you look at last year they had 89 wins. If they had about the same this year, would not be surprised in the least. I think it's
Yep.
like the Juan Soto deal. I get it. They brought back Pete Alonso. That's good. Starting rotation wise, it's Kodai Senga is good. Dave Peterson, I don't love it.
Yeah.
I just don't. There's just so much about this team. I just think at the end of the year, we're going to say the Mets are the Mets.
Yeah. I can't use the Mets since you said the Mets are going to Mets. I'm going
Is
to
that
say
what you were going to
Tears.
do?
I was going to, but I'll say Tears because New York Mets fans are going to cry. After making
Yeah.
it to the NL Championship last year, I think there's a chance that they miss the playoffs. Like you said, this rotation outside of Kodai Senga, I'm not inspired by it at all. Especially when the two of your starters are already hurt before the season starts, when Frankie Montes and Sean Manaea both on the IL already.
Mm-hmm.
You said it. I mean, the Soto, Soto's going to be fun and exciting to watch because he's Juan Soto. But outside those top three guys, it's going to be, can we get production? Can Nimmo, kind of bounce back? He didn't have an awful year, but he had the foot injury that kind of really plagued him the second half of the season. Can Mark Vientos, replicate anything that he did last year in the second half? Can Francisco Alvarez, finally find some offense that everyone was expecting, this huge offensive output from him last year, and all he did was disappoint. So I think at the end of the year they're going to be crying because they spent $750 million on Juan Soto and missed the playoffs.
It's okay. It's only the next 15 years. Yeah.
Oh
So
gosh.
I like how we both have the same one. You even guessed that I knew you would. All right, we're going to move on to the Braves. Tubby, what is the word for the Braves? Last year, they made the playoffs, but it was 89
Barely.
wins, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the Braves, I'm just trying to think of how to word what I'm trying to say. It's gonna be three words. It's not gonna be one. It's gonna be can or it's gonna be four. Can they bounce back? They had so many guys last year that just underperformed. Injuries were a big part of their season, with Acuna going down, and then Spencer Strider getting hurt, and a couple of these other pitchers that they had getting hurt. Can they bounce back? They're going to need Austin Riley, Olson, Murphy, Acuna, Harris. Can Strider get there? They're going to need every single one of these guys to bounce back. And can Ronaldo Lopez and Grant Holmes do anything what they did last year when they were surprises in the rotation and pitched really well for them? I'm not quite sure. And even Profar, can Profar replicate anything that he did last year with the Padres when He was an all-star and put up some big numbers, especially defense and when it come to WAR.
Mm-hmm. No, that's literally what I said. Bounce back. I think they
Yeah.
have to bounce back to what the talent level is. I think an 89-win team with all the injuries last year, the underperformance, you got to imagine it's going to bounce back somehow. And I will say, the year before they were all incredible, so there's going to be
Yeah.
a little bit of a middle ground here.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see them doing it. The rotations is a little bit I'm not sure
Yeah.
about yet, but I can't. Everything you said, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. So. Uh, all right, so we got the Philadelphia Phillies, last year's division winner, at what was it, 95 games, which is a solid number for this division.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the word I chose was healthy. Like, this team stays healthy. This is a healthy team, got a healthy chance to make a deep run in the playoffs, be even in the World Series. I think because of not only the offensive depth that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, with Bohm, Schwarber, Trey Turner, those guys are Harper. I don't think I mentioned him, but him too.
Yeah.
And they have a bench that is used to being in that position. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, like these guys, like I think they have the rotation. A postseason rotation. That's what I love.
Yeah.
And you said Jesus Luzardo. If he's your 5, all
Yeah.
right, sign me up.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with hole. Where's the hole? I mean, honestly, you look at this team, and I don't see much of a hole anywhere. I think this team is a legitimate World Series
Yeah.
contender. Like you said, if they stay healthy, that rotation is right there with the Mariners, Dodgers for best rotation in baseball. When you have, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Luzardo is your 5th starter, teams are going to have a long week because they go, oh well, we don't have to face Wheeler this week. Oh wait, but we still got Nola, Ranger Suarez, and Jesus Luzardo to go against. All 3 of them have been
Mm-hmm.
all stars in the last couple years. Oh darn! And then,
Dude.
like you said,
Yeah.
the offense. The one thing is going to be the bullpen, but I think that the bullpen, they did a lot last year and they shored it up.
Yeah.
And going out
Yeah.
and getting Jordan Romano to be your closer, Jordan Romano's been really good for the Blue Jays. One of the
Yeah.
few bright spots for the Blue Jays over the last couple of years.
Yeah. I've been a Matt Strom fan too, and I like that as an
Yeah.
addition this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or no, they're not last year, but he's on the team the year before.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. I think it's just a team. You look at like,
Yeah.
where's the hole? That's a
Mm-hmm.
great version of how to find it. And they didn't lose a bunch of pieces this last year either.
No.
Even the ones that they lost were just, I mean, Carlos Estevez, I think, was the one. And we'll get to him later with the Royals. But like,
Yeah.
man, this team is built. So all right, that means last piece of this. Give me those projected standings.
Yeah. It's this one's pretty easy, I think, compared to the AL East. It's Philly's going to win this division as long as they're healthy. I don't think there's anyone's going to touch them in this division. Then I'm going to go with the Braves. Then I'm going to go with the Mets. I think it's going to be a rinse and repeat, mostly of what we saw last year, and then Washington and Miami.
Yeah. The only thing I'm gonna do is I think go ahead and just for fun flip the Mets and the Nats. Maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but I think
Hey,
maybe if the Nationals are closer to 83 wins and the
yeah.
Mets are closer to 85 wins,
Mm-hmm.
just one series. That's all it takes to get that one
Yeah.
to flip. And so that's what I'm gonna be hoping for. So
Yeah.
that's what I got.
And you talked about the rotation for the Nationals. There's 2 things I want to talk about that I think that could really help this rotation a couple months into the season. And it's Kay Cavalli coming back from injury. He missed all last year. And DJ Hers, 2 young pitchers down in the minor leagues that will start down there. And I don't trust Soroka will be in the rotation. And I don't think that Trevor Williams will be in the rotation at the end of the season. I think these 2
Mm-hmm.
young guys, Cavalli was their number 1 prospect for 2 or 3 years. The
Mm-hmm.
arm injury last year just tanked, a whole season for him. I think he's going to come back strong and finish the season in the rotation. We're going to see 3 really young pitchers, really good young pitchers in this rotation to set them up for the next year.
Couldn't have said it better myself, so I won't even try. Tubby, wow. Yeah, it's going to be a great baseball season. Maybe we're going to probably have another episode this weekend where we're going to break down another set of the divisions because we did miss a little bit of time.
Yeah,
But if you missed earlier this week's episode, Tubby actually did do an NFL Combine breakdown. Go
yeah,
back, listen to it, watch it, whatever it is on YouTube, because it's worth it and it's a ton of fun as you look at all those moving pieces as we head into draft season, which is like a little bit over a month away, which is a great time of year to
yeah.
make sure that you are subscribed to the show. So if you aren't already, make sure you hit that
Mhm.
subscribe button, share the episode with someone who likes baseball, likes sports, wants a good podcast. That's what we want.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Any final words, Ted, before we sign off?
No, I'm just happy baseball's here.
Dude, it's so nice. It is so nice. All right,
Yeah.
everyone. Well, we appreciate y'all joining us today, and we can't wait. We'll see y'all next time.
See ya.